Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Exploring Photography right here on Adorama TV. I'm Mark Wallace and this is Emily, and we're in London. We were planning to go out and shoot about and get some nice environmental portraits and some really cool stuff, but it is freezing outside, and so we really don't want to do that. But what we do want to do is sort of emulate the look of being outside. And so what we decided to do is say, hey, Emily, wear your coat. We're going to come into the studio, and there's a trick that we can use to create some look that it's not going to look like we're outside, but it's going to give some depth to our portraits to make them look a little more interesting than they would if we just had a flat background. Now you can do this at home. You don't need a lot of stuff. In fact, we're going to be shooting with the ambient light that we have here in the studio. We just have a couple of LED panels that are illuminating me right now, so you can use those at home or whatever light you happen to have. It doesn't really take anything fancy, but the thing that you do need to have, well, you need three things. One, you need some LED lights like these little guys right here. You can get these at almost any little craft store. You also need to have a tripod for your camera, and you need to have a lens that has a really wide aperture that can give you amazing bokeh. So I am using a 50mm 1.4. So if you've got an 85 1.2 or a 50 1.4, whatever it is, you just need to have a lens that has a really wide aperture that's going to give you bokeh. So what we're going to do in this setup is we're going to use these little lights. We're going to put them in front of Emily, and that's going to give us something that is out of focus, some nice bokeh in front of the subject instead of what we normally do, which is put our bokeh, something out of focus, behind our subject. That's going to give our portrait some depth, and it's going to make it look really cool. So let's get started right now. Let's start shooting. And so I have my LED lights right here. Now what you'll notice is when you put these in front of a lens, they go out of focus if they're really close. And that is especially true if you have a lens that has a really wide aperture, like a 1.4 or 1.2 aperture. So that is key. Make sure you have a 50 or longer lens with a really wide aperture, and we're going to be putting the bokeh, the out of focus stuff, in front of our subject instead of behind the subject, which is what we normally do. So it's front bokeh, I guess that's what you would call it. All right, so to do this, there are a few things that we have to really pay attention to. And one of those things is motion. And our shutter speed in here, we don't have a lot of light, but we have enough ambient light to shoot at a shutter speed of 90th of a second. And so I've already used my built-in light meter to see that at 1.4, that wide open aperture, the correct exposure at ISO 400 is 90th of a second. So we don't have to worry too much about camera shake, but what we do have to worry about, because we're really close to our subject, we're shooting at 1.4, that means our depth of field is really shallow. And that means if my camera moves, or if Emily moves just a little bit, she's going to be out of focus. So to combat that, what we've done is I've put my camera on a tripod that keeps me from moving around. And then we have Emily standing on a little mark. So there's a line on the floor. And so I said, Emily, stay there and don't move around when we're taking pictures. So she knows that she has to pose, hold that pose, I'll take a picture, then she can move, hold the pose, take a picture, and I'm shooting with a Leica, so I'm manually focusing everything, and so it's a little bit trickier than your camera that has autofocus. Okay, so that's what we have. We have ISO 400, an aperture of 1.4. In this light, which is super bright, we're shooting at 90th of a second, we're focusing, and then taking a picture. So I'm going to do that first, just to show you what this looks like. So Emily, look right into the lens. Beautiful. And Emily is a fantastic model, and so just with this light we have something that looks really good, but it doesn't look environmental like we're outside. It doesn't have any depth, so now we're going to add these lights. Now one of the most important things to do when you're doing this, you have to shoot in manual mode. If you let your camera do all the exposure stuff, as soon as you put these lights in front of the lens, the lights are going to confuse the built-in light meter and your exposure is going to be all wrong. So this is shot in manual mode. Again, 1.4, 90th of a second, ISO 400. So we're going to focus on Emily like that. And because I'm shooting with the rangefinder, I can't see through the lens. So I'm using live view to place these lights so I can see sort of exactly where they are. When I get to a place I like, bam, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to put these a little bit farther away, just like that. I'm going to take these around so we don't have quite as many in the shot. Keep my hand out, beautiful, just like that. I love that. Okay, and that's all there is to it. You're going to have to play around a little bit. Use live view, that's going to help you cheat. Move these closer and farther away from your subject. Use maybe one or two of these little lights, clump them all up together, And so once you start doing that, you're going to see some really cool results. We're going to shoot. I'm going to throw these into Lightroom, and then I will show you my results. All right, well, I love those pictures, Emily. I think that we did a really good job with what we had, and it doesn't take a lot. Just some imagination, some LED lights, a wonderful model, and a wide open aperture, and you can create that depth in your image. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of Exploring Photography. Emily, thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to Adorama TV. It's absolutely free. Click on the button, subscribe today, and also check out the Adorama Learning Center for all kinds of information on bokeh and shallow depth of field and all the stuff that we did today. So check it out. Again, it's free, so do it right now.